Hello everybody, I'm Jay Capasso, the IFAS Columbia County Extension Agent, and today I'm going to be talking to you in this video about Petiole Sap testing. We Petiole Sap test multiple different vegetable crops in North Florida, but the most common one is watermelon. And we do this to determine the grower's fertilizer need for nitrogen and potassium.
Good day, my name is Luke Harlow, and today I'm here with Jay Capasso to educate you about Petiole Sap testing and the process that we use to educate producers.
So when we collect our Petiole Sap samples, what we want to do is sample the petiole stem from the most recently matured leaf. And that is generally the 5th or the 6th leaf from the tip of the vine. And we have to use a little bit of judgment on what we think is the most recently matured leaf. So I'm going to count down the vine. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Some judgment here, and look at these two. I'm going to call this one the most recently matured leaf. What I'm going to do is I'm going to collect the petiole stem from the vine. Then I'm going to separate the petiole stem from the leaf. I'm going to collect about 5 or 6 of these per field, or more, depending on variability of the field. And I want to collect them from randomized locations, kind of like a soil sample. And what we will do is we will crush these with a garlic press and put them into our meter, and we'll show you that in our next scene to test the nitrate nitrogen and the potassium content of the Petiole Sap.
All right, so now that we've collected all our samples, now we can actually do the test itself. So we're going to need a couple things for that test. So we've got them laid out here. Ultimately, we need our samples. We're also going to need our sap testers, which are right here. One we use for nitrogen levels, the other we use for potassium levels. And so this is really going to be what will tell us what the nutrient levels are for nitrogen and potassium. To be able to do that, we're going to need to calibrate the equipment first to make sure that the readings are accurate, and then we will actually do the sample.
So we have collected our petioles from the field. You can see them here on our cutting board. And we have our knife to be able to cut them up so we can nicely fit them into our garlic press, which we will use to crush them into a juice that the meters can run. We will also want to bring some DI water with us, some deionized water or distilled water, basically a water that is devoid of nutrients that will help us clean off the meters before we use them, and then also clean off the meters in between samples that we run. So let's cut these up. So now I'm going to crush up the petioles that are in this garlic press and create a sap. And we're going to collect it in our nitrogen nitrate meter here, and then into our potassium meter as well. And I'm going to close this. And you can see the different levels of potassium. We've got a smiley face here for the nitrogen nitrate, and a smiley face here for the potassium. So that's the final reading. And we can see we're at 1,000 ppm nitrate nitrogen and 4,500 ppm potassium, which is a pretty good level to be at. They're about half mature melons is where we collected, or the growth stage of the field that we collected these petioles from. So this field is within range, if not slightly above the optimal range. So that's good to know, and it'll be helpful for the farmer to know that their fertility and their fertilizer program is working.
In the table below, you can see the optimum concentrations for nitrate nitrogen and potassium based on growth stage of the watermelon crop. You can see that the optimum concentrations decrease with time as the watermelon crop moves through the season. That is because the watermelon crop is pumping more and more of its nutrients to the fruit of the crop. You can also see that the optimum concentrations of nitrate nitrogen differ slightly between seeded cultivars and seedless cultivars of watermelon. The seedless cultivars of watermelon have a slightly lower optimum concentration for nitrate nitrogen compared to the seeded cultivars of watermelon, while the optimum concentrations of potassium remain the same between seeded and seedless cultivars of watermelon.
Hi, I'm Bob Hockeneuth, a Regional Specialized Extension Agent with the University of Florida IFAS. And I'm here at the North Florida Research and Education Center, Suwannee Valley, just outside of Live Oak. I want to tell you a little bit about the history and the importance of Petiole Sap testing. The University of Florida actually has been the worldwide leader in developing the numbers that go along with Petiole Sap testing for a whole wide range of vegetable crops, including watermelons. Most of the research to come up with those numbers as to what the optimum range is for nitrogen and potassium when we test for Petiole Sap was developed mostly in the 1980s and 1990s. And that research helps us to be able to pinpoint what the proper numbers are for Petiole Sap testing for those two important nutrients. As we go through the season, the level of nitrogen and potassium changes, and so we know what the optimum levels are. Watermelons is it is a unique crop in relation to fertilizer because you certainly, as in most crops, can do poorly if you don't get enough fertilizer, but watermelons actually have a different response if you push them too hard, especially too early with too much nitrogen. So what we're really trying to do with Petiole Sap testing is to keep it in that optimum range, not too high and not too low. And what that does in some cases may suggest to a farmer that they are at the high level and they could reduce the nitrogen rates, or if they're at the low level, could increase the nitrogen rate. So it's not only about whether we're going to suggest that they use less nitrogen fertilizer, it's really to help guide them in terms of the actual amount that's needed, whether it's higher or lower. So both of those are going to result in economic benefits to the grower to make sure that they get the optimum yield and not push the crop too hard so that you get a lot of vegetation and not enough fruit set. So this has been a very important technology. I think the part that the growers really like is that we can give them an instant answer in the field at this moment as to what the status is of their nitrogen and potassium fertilizer. Those are the two elements that we really are monitoring during the course of the season, and we have individual meters that we can test nitrogen on one meter, potassium on the other meter. Our county extension agents in this region have all been equipped with this technology and their own equipment so that they can respond quickly to the growers in their counties. So I think it's been a really good methodology for watermelon growers and other vegetable growers to be able to fine-tune their nitrogen and potassium management plans. And of course, in this Suwannee Valley area, we're really concerned about making sure that our nitrogen is on target, not too much, not too little. But that's the story here. Over the years, we've been at this for over 30 years and helping growers to fine-tune their nutrient management through the use of this Petiole Sap testing methodology.